So earlier this week, I asked firstly our coached age group athlete Lepha and our coached professional athlete Lydia to answer some of my questions about their recent race at Ironman Lanzarote. Now, race day in terms of an outcome looked very different for both of these athletes. However, their inputs in terms of what they did in the days, weeks and months leading up to the race actually looked extremely similar. Now, even though those outcomes were so different, they were both equally as accomplished as each other. And in fact, you could almost argue that perhaps more so for our age group athlete Lepha, because she arguably had a few more challenges and hurdles to overcome than the professional athlete Lydia. And it's all too often that we seem to judge an athlete's level of accomplishment by their time, their outcome or finish position, when actually this is complete nonsense. Your time or your finish position doesn't define your level of accomplishment. Your behaviours, your attitude and your choices do. So that's actually something that's fully within your control. So through this video, I want you to note some of the both similarities in the answers they give in terms of their processes, their mindset and their attitude, but also some of the differences in the individual challenges that they faced in the build-up to race day. Bear in mind this was their first Ironman. For both of them, it was their Ironman debut. And then once you've watched the video, perhaps let's ask that question again. Are they both equally as accomplished, regardless of their outcome?
That's a good question. So I had quite an unusual year last year. So I broke my collarbone, and so I spent most of September through to December rebuilding my sort of endurance, my aerobic base. So my training didn't really start, although my build didn't start, I would say, until late December. And I started off around 16 hours and then gradually built that up over the coming weeks. So my peak week was about 25 hours.
The biggest week I did was about 27 and a half hours. Leading up to it, I mean, it varied from 16 hours through to, like I said, that 27 and a half hour week. So it's probably consistently holding around the 20-hour mark.
Yeah, I had a pretty epic one out in Lanzarote. So I did a recce of the bike course, 165 kilometres of it, at what would be a race effort. And it took me 7 hours and 20 minutes. And then I did a 10-mile brick run off it, again, out along the route pretty much at a race intensity. So that was a 9-hour day. And then the following day, I went out with Lauren for a 2-hour easy run. So that was a pretty mega weekend, but it was awesome.
I think the longest one was, well, I did like about 5.5 hours, 6 hours on the bike through to like an hour run off afterwards. But I also did a couple of bigger weekends. So I did longer runs from a shorter bike essentially. And then the next day, like a longer bike onto a shorter run. So I think the longest day I did was probably the best part of maybe 7 hours in total.
Well, where do I start? So much. But I think the key support I got from Tom was learning to trust the process in a way that I've probably not done before. It's really easy to believe in it when everything's going to plan, but it only ever really gets tested when things don't go to plan. And when I picked up an injury 6 weeks out from the race, I had a minor hip injury that didn't resolve with rest as we would have expected it to, and ended up with me having an MRI scan. It was really then having his support and having his encouragement to keep doing the things I could do to make sure that whatever happened, I wouldn't write off a chance to race. That was absolutely invaluable, because I think without him, I would really have scuppered my race, my ability to race. I think I would have not taken the opportunities that were still there, and I probably wouldn't have got to the start line.
For me, it's probably being able to train with my coach has been of highest value. I think it also helps just to have someone see what you're doing and be able to make assessments as well with you. Like some days we'll go out and actually just change the whole session totally based on how you're feeling, but having that insight, like he's not just reading my training or setting a training plan, we just totally adapt it based on feel what's the right thing to do on that day to make sure we're always maximising quality. So that's been totally invaluable, is having your coach actually there with you to train with the majority of your key sessions.
Yeah, definitely. So I have a full-time job. It involves a lot of travel, and yeah, for sure I definitely needed to contract with work because I needed a little bit of flexibility around about my work hours, and they knew the volume of training that I would have to put in. I also have to do on calls, and then of course poor old Dave, my other half. I'm really lucky that we share the same passion for sport and triathlon. So he's been a huge part of my journey, and without him being really brought in, it would just have been so much more difficult and so much less fun, I think, as well. So yeah, I've been really lucky.
No, I didn't. I was very clear of what I needed to get done. It wasn't more of contract, it was more just kind of like expectation management, but also being really clear on what my goals were and trying to explain more about what I'm trying to achieve and why it's important to me, but also why it's not delusional what I'm doing. In terms of work, I'm really fortunate that this is my job, which sounds a bit surreal to say, but also having passion fitting as well. I've been able to be flexible with how I manage my time. I've been fortunate to have sponsorship as well, which has given me the luxury of having choice. I kind of have probably less contracting as such than a lot of people do who are juggling like working and not being self-employed as such, and have young families and actually have friends. I don't really have any friends or family or work. No, I do. Well, tenuously.
I think trying to balance the training volume around my work commitments, because I do travel a lot. It's like military precision, military planning to make sure that I could get the sessions in that I needed to at the consistency that I needed to.
It was actually just not knowing. So with 70.3, like that's quite a known entity. Like I've got the sort of, I know what sessions I need to do or the sort of structure and routine around it. And what will work, and having that baseline information. For this, I had no idea with how the training I've been doing would then translate into the race. So that was probably the key thing, just not knowing how it would go.
So I absolutely loved the race in Lanzarote, and for me it was a real celebration of the weeks and months of training and hard work that I put in. But I think the part that meant the most to me was sharing that race experience with the people that I trained with at Passion Fit and who I'd spent the endless 5 a.m. mornings in the pool and on the bike sets with, and seeing them out on the course and just sharing that with them, and then seeing them as I crossed the finish line was one of the best moments ever, being able to celebrate that. It was just a fabulous way to really celebrate that journey that I've been on.
So for me, it was just being able to share the whole day with everyone that I've trained with over the weeks, months and years leading up to this race. Like there's nothing better or more motivational than getting to share the course and seeing everyone else showcase all of their hard work, knowing exactly what everyone else has put in to get to that. Like we all did the same training, the same sessions, like had the same highs and lows with building towards an Ironman, and just being able to be out there, give everyone high fives and just see them all absolutely having the day that they deserved. That was just everything for me. So that's the thing that I always look back on.
Oh my God, yes. For me, I just wanted to enjoy the experience of my first Ironman, and I think unless you enjoy the process leading up to it, I don't think you can get as much out of the day. But I love the whole process. So the race was really a celebration of all of that. And to be honest, just getting to the start line and knowing that I was ready to race was an amazing feeling. I mean, it's not going to get rid of any nerves, but it was just fantastic knowing that I'd done everything that I could and I was ready to go. And so when I started, all I wanted to do was just suck up the experience and just enjoy it and remember as much of it as I could. I wanted to remember the amazing sights, the people that I spoke to, and the times when I saw the rest of the Passion Fit crew, which was awesome. So the day was just amazing, and I crossing the finish line you'd think would be the best part of the day, but actually it was the whole day itself and seeing everyone out there. So I couldn't have been happier just to be part of it and be part of that experience with everyone.
I was already happy with my day before it even started. So I felt I got to the start line, and I genuinely, in the time that I had, I knew that I'd prepared to the best of my ability. And it was just knowing that whatever happened on the day, because you don't know what's going to happen, like it's a flipping long day out, and anything can happen, but everything within my control, I had controlled. And I just felt that actually in the time I had to prepare for the race, there wasn't anything else that I would have wanted to have done differently. And my only goal for the race was to go out there and just really enjoy it. Like, you only get your first go at an Ironman once, and that was it. I just wanted to look back and think, I just enjoyed every single moment of not just the process leading up to the race, but the whole day itself. But I think because I'd managed the process, I was able to actually just relax into the race and just make the most of every moment. So that was what I enjoyed most about it. So yes, I was already happy with my day before it even started.